Welcome back to the lunch table, food for thought. I'm Nico Blitz. Make sure you hit that subscribe button just right down there. We're also on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud. You could also look at my face on YouTube if you don't mind. Although I'm not shaved and I need a haircut. Shout out my barber who's been gone for about 3 weeks, man. Enough about me. My next guest, though, man, child superstar, still a superstar, and he is a dancer. He was formerly part of this group called Mindless Behavior. He's currently working on an album and a movie right now. He goes by the name of Princeton Perez.
Yeah.
What's poppin', man?
What's up, man?
Downey represent.
Man, I'm not going to rep Downey like that, buddy. I'm from down.
Bro.
LA represent.
LA represent. Bro, because the only thing I know about Downey is DB Lounge.
See, the only thing
You
I
don't
know
even
about
know what
Downey
DB Lounge
is.
is.
Yeah, I don't know a lot of people that know Downey. That's in
Yeah,
LA,
man.
So, I'm repping LA.
Do you still live in Downey?
Yeah, I'm still out there.
Man.
My whole family's out there. So, I like it. It's where I grew up. It's all my friends are out there. So, born and raised.
Born and raised, man.
But LA, I'm always driving to studios and rehearsals. So, I'm all around, like,
of course,
Hollywood and back.
And prior to this conversation, you were saying that you didn't even go to middle school or high school. So when exactly did you start just moving back and forth between studios?
I started being homeschooled when I was in 7th grade. So
early.
Yeah, so I did all of that. I was just homeschooled, but I graduated early though, so that's the benefit.
Oh, so you're smart.
No, I just rushed through everything. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, but I was homeschooled, so I was busy my whole childhood, so couldn't really go to school.
Yeah, and so how did you even at 7th grade, man? You're probably 13 years old. You just barely hit.
Yeah.
You just barely hit that teenage year, man. And
yeah.
What was the transition for you going from the normal life in modern America into the entertainment side?
Well, it wasn't really that much of a huge change because I'd always been going to auditions growing up. Since I was 5, I was always going to auditions. So I was used to missing a couple of days of school because I booked a job or a dance job or something. But this time, when I joined Mindless Behavior, I left and I didn't tell any of my friends. I didn't tell nobody.
Really?
I just left, and then Mindless Behavior a couple years later went on a school tour. Or the year after, we went on a school tour. And my school was one of them, and they got to see that.
That is so crazy.
Yeah.
How do you keep that a secret from your friends?
Well, it wasn't that hard because I just stopped communication with all of them.
Oh, you just cold turkey, man,
yeah,
fuck y'all.
I didn't just. I was focused on my dreams. I was just I was ready to get it, and they understood. But yeah.
How did you know that was your dream at such a young age, man? Because I'll tell you this. You're how old are you again?
23.
Okay, so you're 23, man. People don't figure out their dreams until about their 20s, and some people don't figure it out until their 30s. How do you figure that out when you're 13 or even younger, man?
You know what? I was just asking my mom that a couple of days ago. We're in the process of movement, and she found a paper that had my preschool paper and my preschool graduation paper, and it said the student's name and what they wanted to be when they grew up. And it had so many police officers and doctors, and mine said performer. And I was, maybe in preschool, you're 5, 6, 7?
Yeah.
So I was asking, I was like, was I always wanting to do this? And she was like, yeah, that's just been you. So I don't really know if there was really a reason why I knew. I just knew.
Man, you probably just saw a commercial one time when you were a baby and was like, yeah,
man, I just wanted to
I want to do that.
Yeah, so when I got the opportunity at 13 and 7th grade, I took it.
Yeah. So. Of course. And how do your parents feel at that point, knowing that, because it's kind of rough for a parent to just, take that dream. Shout out to your parents, dude, because that's a huge risk. Me and my mom are
hella close, and I'm an only child, so it's always been me and my mom. So, but she knew I really wanted it, and she's always been my number one supporter. So, and my manager Keisha, she trusted her too. When she made the group. So, my mom trusted me, and she knew that I was really focused, and I trusted in her, and it worked out.
Yeah.
It was hard, but it worked out.
Yeah, man, shout out to mom. Shout out to the parents who really believe in their children's goals, man. And I'm only saying that because, for one, my parents, really trust me with what I'm doing right now. Nice. So shout out to them. But for two, there's a whole bunch of parents in this world who just we kind of get stuck in the societal norm where we put our kids through school,
Yeah.
like the whole nine, go through college, one of the biggest schemes in the world, if I might say.
Okay.
And I'm someone who went to college. I'm saying
Nice.
that, you know what I mean? So, we go through the whole nine just for some people to come out of it and not get anything from it. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah. Oh yeah, I definitely understand. Especially now when I'm the oldest of like 23 cousins, young cousins,
Jesus.
and so I've always been the one that did everything first. So I didn't really set the example of going to college and going to high school. So
Yeah.
now that I have these younger cousins that are doing it, I'm kind of seeing it through their eyes and what they're going through. And it's hard out there, man. But I was just blessed enough to really know what I wanted to do at a young
I mean,
age.
I want to ask you this now, man, because I had a conversation with my 16-year-old cousin, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in a Filipino household, right?
Okay.
They usually tend to push doctor, lawyer.
Yeah.
So, she came at me and she was like, hey, like, what's it like for you living in LA? And, how do you enjoy your job? I was like, first of all, I love living by myself.
Right.
Second of all, I love what I'm doing because it's actually what I'm doing. And I'm like, why are you asking my 16-year-old cousin? Why are you asking? And she's just like, well, my mom was just telling, she's really pushing like this doctor lawyer thing on me. And to me, I'm just like, you know what? Fuck that.
And
Do
go
whatever
with
you want to
what
do. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Do you ever have conversations like that with like your younger cousins?
Yeah, well, I've had a conversation with that with my papa. And he told me recently, he thought that being his first grandkid, that he thought I was going to be like a soccer player. And I was like, that was never going to happen. He really thought that, in the Mexican culture, they love their football, man. Like their soccer football is like their thing. So
it's football.
Right. Clearly, I don't know because I didn't go that route. But he thought that that's what I was going to go for. And but they all knew at such a young age. I was very vocal about what I want to do. I like 10. I was like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to get it. And yeah.
In the sense, like, even though you feel like you're not leading the way for your cousins because you're in the entertainment field, I feel like they might look at you and just be like,
no,
well, he's doing what he wants to do. So if, if I'm pushed to be a doctor or a lawyer and I want to do that, then I'm going to do it.
I mean, because if you want to be a janitor or the biggest singer in the world or go to college, it all just... You have to have discipline for any of those to go. So they do take that from me. I'm always saying, whatever you guys want to do, it doesn't matter. But if you're going to take one thing from me is at least have discipline in whatever you want to do. Stick with it. You know what I mean?
Gotta shake your hand for that one, bro.
It's that Downey mentality, man.
Man, shout out Downey once again, man. There's something different about the Downey water.
Man. Yeah.
So Keisha helped put together Mindless Behavior.
Yeah, she did put together Mindless Behavior.
Okay, so then you joining a group of three members. What was that like for you at that time?
Well, originally I was the first one to be in the group, so it was me for a little bit, and then the boys had joined in, and it was fun. Like I said, I'm an only child, so I felt like I had 3 other brothers who not only were going through what I was going through, but were the same age as me and loved what we were doing, and we grew up together and we developed together. So I loved it, and I've always wanted to be in a group.
Yeah,
I loved NSYNC and Destiny's Child and Jackson 5, and I loved a lot of rock bands. So I thought it was dope how groups were together and there were different personalities. I've always admired that, so I got the opportunity at a young age.
I gotta ask you this. So then, who's like your favorite group of all time?
Dang, man.
Bro, that's a tough question. Because you just named so many legends. I'm over here thinking like, man, you want to throw in Outkast? You want to throw in Migos? You want to throw, you know what I mean?
No, none of anything after 2000. I'm not gonna go with. I don't know what my favorite group is. That's too hard because I want to say like, of course you want to say Jackson 5, but then you also want to say like the Beatles was a dope group.
Yeah. That's true.
Or is that a band? A group band?
Let's say 3 or more. Three or more would be.
I mean, my favorite, my most influential artist is John Lennon. So he's just
okay.
holds a special place in my whole life.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I have to get back to you on that. I'm surprised I've been in a group my whole life and I've never been asked that.
And that's really.
Yeah, no one's ever asked me what my all-time favorite group is.
Can I just dab myself up one time?
Because I would have known. I would have known that by now. Dang.
Yeah, because at that point, like. I think what I'm getting at is the fact, for example, my favorite rapper is J. Cole.
Nice.
And I feel like a lot of the lyrics that he pushes out are a little bit more like conscious and like social
For
awareness. So it's
sure.
like whenever I ask questions, it's like I always want to like pinpoint it to like, well, what's the social meaning behind some of these?
Yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
So it's like relating it back to your music. It's kind of like, well, the music that you do, it's obviously influenced by your favorite group, whether it be like
Right.
an NSYNC or like a Backstreet Boys. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
dude, like you don't know how many times I'll be like spinning at my residencies and I could play a Backstreet Boys or an NSYNC song and people just go bananas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, especially when you start at a young age, you get these fans when they're 13 and they're 14. It's the most influential time of their lives. They're finding themselves, and you hear a song and it takes you back to the hard times or the good times, or, it takes you back. So I definitely see what you mean by that.
Yeah, man. And it's crazy to think about how like years later these groups can have a residency in Vegas
Yeah.
and then that fan base
Okay,
that
I
was
think
like
I think
13,
you got me
14
on
years
that.
old.
You just said how you played in sync and people went bananas, right? Because it took them back. The only group that, when their music plays, takes me back to my childhood is No Doubt. That's probably the
No
only
doubt.
group.
Okay.
Yeah, because my two aunts, for a while I was like the only grandkid, so they would watch me and that's all they played. So that's probably the only group that when I listen to the music, I can go back to like where I was,
Oh
what I
yeah.
was wearing, what I was smelling, like all I could really go back into that time.
Well, because even No Doubt kind of had that sound that wasn't totally like alternative rock, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
they were sick.
Like you know what I mean? They kind of dabbled into, I mean, I wouldn't even say hip hop, but it was a lot more experimental for the time.
For sure. I mean, you have Gwen Stefani as
Yeah,
the lead.
exactly.
It's-
I'm
And I
just
was
a
like
girl.
6.
Yeah.
So I was listening to all that stuff and I thought it was the best thing in the world. It is.
Yeah. You growing up, did you grow up with like mainly women in your household?
No, I had a lot of uncles.
A lot of them. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
but it's weird because, not weird, but I'm the only mixed one in my family. So I have 10 uncles and aunts, but they all had, I have all these cousins, but they're all full Mexican.
Yeah.
So I grew up with, it wasn't until I met Keisha and the boys, I got, exposed to like black culture. And that's when and then I was in mindless
Oh
behavior
wow.
and I was studying all these like urban groups and I was touring. So that's really, I felt like when I really started to live. I was like 9, 10 years old.
Yeah.
That's when I really started to live. I started seeing both sides of who I was.
So essentially, you were growing up more so in a Mexican household before you got exposed to the black culture. You know, your black
Yeah.
side, right? So like, I guess, what was like the culture shock that you experienced at that point? Because black culture and Mexican culture are like two totally different cultures.
Totally
man.
different, but we're still, all like in one pot. I think it was really the little things, man. It was like my grandma taking me to church. I'd never been to like a church like that,
Oh,
or
wow.
just trying like the different foods, or even the TV shows. I didn't grow up watching the TV shows like that. I grew up watching novellas with my nana. So it was a whole culture shock, but I needed it,
Yeah.
But my favorite part was being introduced to the music, the R&B music.
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, think about
Yeah,
it.
I
You think
get
about all the
you.
R&B groups, R&B dude singers, girl singers, all these people that I was exposed to.
Yeah, you know what? That's true because
was the best.
growing up, like my parents would listen to 70s, 80s music.
Nice.
So you know what I mean? I was exposed to like the Earth, Wind, and Fires.
Oh,
and all that.
nice, yeah.
You know what I mean? And it wasn't until I start really hanging out with a bunch of my homies who were just of different cultures, and I'm like, oh, hip hop's a thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, there's music outside of this.
Right,
That's
but
amazing.
I knew there was some type of stuff out there because, like I said, I had this. At the end of the day, I was a black kid. I'm still a black kid, so I had this soul in me that I felt like no one in my family had
Yeah.
but me. That you put music to it, and it's like, okay, this is where my heart's at.
Yeah.
And R&B is like my favorite genre. That's why my whole EP is an R&B EP,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm making an R&B album. So
Yeah. So then you seeing as how like you were so like well equipped to R&B at that young age,
Mhm.
like how do you maneuver through a pop realm that is Mindless Behavior?
yeah, I mean, I felt like Mindless Behavior was on like the brink of R&B and pop, but our fans and when we toured and our music was very much urban. So that's probably another thing that was like shocking to me too, was because the group grew up so fast that I was finding who I was, and then being in Mindless Behavior, it was like, oh, we're all growing up together.
Yeah. It's kind of insane because at that age you have to figure out who you are as a person, but
Yeah.
oh wait, we have to go on tour. We have to figure
Yeah.
out who we are as Mindless Behavior too.
Right, but I liked finding myself on tour. That was fun. I mean, think
what
about
were
it.
you learning about yourself, man?
I was just learning how disciplined I can be. Really, especially being away from my mom. There were times where I was gonna be gone for 4 months, 5 months at a time. So I really learned how strong I was at a young age, and I learned how to be able to multitask. I mean, there were times where we would have to literally, do 12 hours of interviews and then do school, and then do
Jesus
perform,
Christ.
and then do meet and greet. And you really have to learn how to do 5 things at once. So I wasn't really like that growing up. But,
Yeah.
I mean.
Well, I mean, when we're a kid, the only thing we're normally scheduled for
Right.
is wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning,
And go to school.
get your ass to to school by 8. Oh, you're done by 3. Do your homework. Do
Right.
all that shit. And I guess what I'm getting at is, do you feel like you ever wish you had that torpor? Like, were you ever curious about what that type of life would be like?
No. To be honest, it's probably because I wanted this life so badly at a young age that I felt like by the time I, got it at 13, I felt like I was like a 25-year-old man that finally got his
Jesus
dreams. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
yeah.
I was like grinding out for so long because Mindless Behavior wasn't my first audition. It wasn't like that much of a shock to me because I had been going to auditions growing up. And I had
So Mindless
friends.
Behavior wasn't the first group that you auditioned for.
It wasn't it wasn't the first audition
In general.
anything.
Okay,
I
okay.
had been on hundreds of dance auditions, and I had friends that ended up being in groups, and they would tell me their experiences, or dancers that went on big tours, and I would just dream like, man, one day I'm gonna go on tour. And
I'm going to do all that.
I'm gonna do all that, and it happened. So
Yeah.
I don't miss, and I feel like the 10 years I had of normal life, I was like, that's enough. I got enough of it.
Damn.
I got enough of it. I'm cool.
He said, forget about childhood.
Yeah, like I'm cool. I was ready to do it, but we were busy. But Keisha made time for us to be kids. Like we were able to.
How do you be a kid on tour?
I mean, you take a day off, and instead of rehearsing, you go to a theme park. You hang out with the other acts on tour. You hang out with your dancers who are your age. It's like you're in school, and yeah, we were a group. We were 4 young kids, so we had each other. So it wasn't boring. It was never boring.
Yeah, man. I mean, I could only imagine. I mean, I can't backtrack and be like, yes, let's start a tour right now.
Yeah.
I remember those times, but it's crazy to think how you can accomplish so much at such a young age, and like it's kind of like a cheat code. You know what I mean? Like I've seen videos of Swiss Beats and Alicia's kid.
Yeah, man, he's amazing.
Producing, and I'm just like, you are cheating.
Oh yeah,
because by the time he's like 10 years old, he's out of here.
I mean, but it's what you make of it, man.
Yeah.
I know a lot of the dancers that I grew up with that were in the same position as me, and now they just fell out of it, and they don't really love it as much. So it's really what you take from it.
What do you think? Because I have a theory based off a podcast I did just last week.
Okay.
But what do you think prevents people from continuing their dreams, especially when starting at a young age?
One, I think social media. Social media makes, nobody's posting on social media the bad things in their life. They only post the good things. And when you're constantly posting, the highlights of your life, you can kind of get jaded and be discouraged. So one, I think, is social media. And two, it's just losing the dream. I feel like this generation don't really, if they have long-term goals, they don't really like see it through, and there's a lot of goals that I've accomplished, but there's goals that I may not accomplish for the next 10 years, but I'll wait it out for the next 10 years. A lot of my friends that I grew up with think it's going to happen so quick. They want it so fast, that they don't get it as fast as they want it, and then they fall out of it. And so I think it's just those two things. It's being impatient, and social media can kind of discourage artists.
I could see that because I mean, those two really go hand in hand. You see how quick, how quote unquote quickly people can rise. Like, Blueface just started rapping within the past year.
Yeah, a lot of people just drop songs.
He just blows up, and then everyone thinks like, well, I just want to blow up.
Yeah.
But then you got to recognize that like the longevity of someone. I'm hoping he lasts a while because I actually fuck with his music. But like the longevity of someone like that isn't too long.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like give them a year or two. But like I remember listening to a podcast and Jay-Z had said that. You'll be lucky if you're in the music industry, you'll be lucky if you make 2 years. You you are blessed if you can make it past 5 years,
Yeah.
like with a prominent name. But
Oh,
then a lot of
for
people
sure.
reach for the 2 years because that's just what seems more achievable.
For sure. And then, but like I said, social media gets a hold of you, and your goals aren't coming, or they start switching, and you kind of fall out of it. But me, that's the one thing about me. I've never really been discouraged about anything. You know, someone could tell me in my face like, "You will not make it," and I'll be like, "All right, cool. Well, meet me at the studio tonight." I don't get discouraged.
Yeah.
That's just something. Honestly, that's something I can't explain. I've always been that type of way. So, you know, everybody's different, but yeah.
Yeah, shout out to you, man. Shout out to your mind. I'm really
Shout
fucking
out
with your
to the
mindset right
Downey
now,
kid,
man.
So
So like,
Downey, it's all Downey.
so you guys are something in the Downey water, man.
Yeah.
Something in the water. So you're in Mindless Behavior, right?
Yep.
And why do you guys decide to part ways?
Well, we spent all of our teen years in a group from 9 to 20 years old, 24/7 homeschooling. We only knew each other. We didn't have no friends, like really friends that we made on our own. So we just decided to take a break and just, you know, see what our 20s would be like. And I just found myself in the studio a couple weeks later, and I started making my EP without even knowing. Like, I didn't go in the studio saying, I want to make an EP. I just started recording music. And then before I knew it, I was like, oh, shit, I have like 40 songs done.
Damn.
Yeah, I recorded over
40.
like 40, 50 records, yeah.
And how much of a time span?
Like a year and a half. But I was also,
Wow.
besides the studio, I was in rehearsal. Like, you know, just working on my dancing and, you know, changing up my style and doing things I never did before. I'd never been to like a college before, and I went to my friend's college at UCLA, and I was tripping. I never did stuff like that. I never been to a
Wow.
football game. I never been to prom. I went to 3.
Wow.
So I just wanted to we wanted to experience life a little bit, you know?
That's insane to me, dude.
Yeah.
Like
Crazy.
and because I'm thinking of the fact that I think when we see people on social media, like, you know, we see how glamorous a life can be if
Yeah.
you're like on tour or you're partying every day, or
Right.
you know, it just seems like you're active doing like extremely cool shit that isn't normal. But for someone like yourself to, you know, after Mindless Behavior, kind of backtrack and say like, you know, I want to go to a football game. I just want to
Yeah.
go to a college, and I want to go to like some proms and like see what that's like. It's like, you know, it's a feeling that not a lot of people, that I can't even understand
Yeah.
personally, and a lot of people can't even like think about,
Right.
because like the way, I guess like the way you live is normal to you, and the way I live is normal to me.
Right. I know. I feel that, but I also, while I was doing all of these things, I was meeting other people that were like, you know, I want to leave school and go on tour. And I was like, listen, at the end of the day, being on tour and going to school, it's the same thing. You just gotta have fun. You gotta make what you have and have fun with it. You know, I was finding things that I was doing within the year and a half besides recording and stuff, like going to go pick up my little cousin from school, and like I got my license. That was a big thing for me.
Hey, shout out to you, man.
I got a license.
Shit.
That was the hardest. I didn't get that in Downey. I couldn't get that in Downey.
I don't know, man. Downey's just like one straight ass
It's
road.
one
Like,
straight
you
road.
can't-
I couldn't get
You
that
can't
in
fuck
Downey.
that up.
But like I gotta get a whip, and I gotta just do cool things, man. But I always found myself in the studio though. Like that was the one thing. At the end of the day, like I was just in the studio making music, so I knew that's where my heart was.
Yeah, and ain't it crazy? And the reason why I asked you like how many songs did you make? It's kind of crazy to think when somebody just makes one song, they think that song is like, you know,
no.
that's it. But you to go through like 40 songs, and I can only imagine that you're very picky about which songs to even pick.
For sure. And my team is real with me. I don't have yes people around me, so they're real.
That's good.
If it's a dope record, if it's a whack record, or if it's a record that could become dope. But it definitely made me a perfectionist. I never really was that so anal about everything, but now like every record I spend like days and weeks at a record. Before I would just record a record in a day and think, all right, I'll get back to it. Now, growing up and being a solo artist, like man, you really have to take your shit serious. Like,
What was the hardest record you've had to make, or that you have made?
the one that's on the EP, or just out of all of them?
Yeah, on the EP.
Probably the first single, Perfect World. That's dropping. Just the first single, the first song that everyone's gonna hear from me is called Perfect World, and it comes out on June 14th, and that's probably was the hardest because I kept preaching to Dirk, which was the producer, in January, who's also the co-writer on it. I kept saying, you know, I want an R&B record like Usher and Chris Brown and Mario and Tank. I want an R&B record. I want to sing all this stuff. And they brought me this record, and I was like, I gotta really put my heart into this. And it challenged me, but it's my favorite record, and that's why it's the first single. So
Yeah.
probably Perfect World.
It's kind of interesting that you say it's Perfect World too, because you just claimed you're a perfectionist.
Yeah, and in the song, you know, the song is really about, you know, you want to have this, but you want to have that, but in a perfect world, you can have it all. You know, you can love one girl and love the other girl, and they'd be all right with it. But in a perfect world, it would be like that. That's kind of what the record's
You're not
about.
preaching polygamy right now.
That's what the record is about. So that, but that was that was the most challenging. You should have seen my mom's face when she heard it, me singing like that. She was shocked.
Yeah.
Everyone was shocked, and that's the one record that I've been playing to everybody that I mean, even strangers. I'll just play the record, and that's the one thing they say, like, damn, you really grew vocally. So that's my favorite song on the EP.
Yeah, man. I mean, I can't wait to hear it, to be honest.
It's lit. It's hot. It's amazing.
So then, literally, you know, after Mindless Behavior, you're just working on the EP.
Yeah, I'm working on an EP, and then I did some acting too. I did a movie called Pursued, and that should be coming out this summer. I think either on Netflix or Hulu or Amazon. I did that.
How does somebody like yourself manage, you know, being in your early 20s, for one thing, being an actor,
right? I mean, I'm not a full
being
actor.
a music,
Yeah,
but you're in a movie, bro.
You're right.
You're in a movie.
I mean, I was just focused, you know. Mindless ended when I was like 20, about to turn 21.
Yeah.
So, I was just focused. You know, we were very disciplined in the group, and I just took that with me. I was like, all right, if I did it there, I'll just do it with myself. But I wanted to take time. That's the one thing that I wanted. I didn't want to rush and put a song out like how you were saying.
That's good.
I was like, just let me take my time. I'm not gonna take all these years, but just give me like a year. And I kind of used it like, you know how people leave high school and they have their, their gap year before they're going to college?
Yeah.
That year to kind of experience real life before they're going back. And that was my gap year. I was like, just give me a gap year to kind of just live a little. And then when that gap year's over, I will have the best EP you will ever have. And I'll actually be singing about stuff that I've experienced, like real heartbreak.
Ooh.
And so that was like my gap year.
Shit. We're getting into the gap year.
The gap year was
The gap
year was a gap year, bro.
So year why? Let's put a time frame to it.
Okay.
When did the gap year start and when did it end?
The gap year started. It was on Halloween, but I forgot what year it was. I remember it was on Halloween.
Okay, so
like 2016.
October 2016.
2017 Halloween.
Okay.
Yeah, October 31st.
October 31st, 2017.
2017.
What's the first thing? I mean, aside from trick or treating.
No, what did I do? I was 21. I went out with my friends to a club, and I had never been to a club before, and I wanted to go out there because I was like, if I want to make dope ass music, I have to go to the club and hear what people are listening to. Mm-hmm. And then we were in like, I was with Scissorhands. I was Prince. I was Prince for Halloween. And we were just there, and we were listening to music, and I was like, okay, is this what people are listening to? And the very next day, I went to the studio. And I was in there, and I spent like 18 hours in there.
Jesus Christ.
And I didn't record not one thing.
You didn't record it?
With the producer about what I wanted to talk about. And he was like, you kind of got to live a little bit. Because when you go in the studio and you want to talk about what you've experienced, you know, anyone that's 21 that grew up in a, you know, like a normal life, they've been through, you know, breakups and makeups. I had just gone off a tour, so I was like, I don't know if people want to hear about me touring in my songs. That's not really a concept.
Yeah.
So I decided, you know, I dated and did that whole.
That didn't go well.
Hell no. That didn't go well, but you know, hey, it made a great record though.
Why couldn't it go? Why wasn't the matrimony well?
I'm just a focused dude, man. I think, you know, I've been in the music industry for over 10 years with the group that my first love is like music. And some people get it, some people don't, but yeah.
Well, I mean, realistically in this industry in particular, if you have a partner, that partner needs to understand full force.
For
Like, look,
sure.
I need to focus on all this shit.
For
You focus
sure.
on all of your shit.
For sure.
Otherwise, it's kind of like you can't distract me from my greatness.
For sure. I mean, I gotta make time. I'm not gonna be lonely forever, but
Yeah.
you know, I love music, man, and you gotta just be somebody that
I
understands
guess
that.
I'm saying the fact that like there's a mutual understanding and like birds of a feather flock together, right?
Yeah.
So if somebody who you're supposed to be with is like equally on the same mindset as you,
For sure.
then you know that person is obviously going to continue growing with you, and you're going to want to foster that relationship because you
Exactly.
recognize, oh, this person knows how it's going to work out.
Exactly, and that's was probably the best thing in my gap year. I was my friends that were going to college were going through the exact same thing, just in their way. So I was able to like talk with people and hear their experiences, and I took some of their stories and wrote songs about it.
Damn.
Oh, for sure.
Wow.
That's the benefit of having, you know, like messed up friends.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. You just
Shout out
take
to all our fucked up friends.
yeah, you just take their problems and say, I'm gonna write an album about that. Thank you for that.
No, I think it's brilliant that you do it that way too, because people don't understand the concept of storytelling. You think
For
about
sure.
why we enjoy. Okay, now I don't even know if you've ever watched a Disney movie. Have you?
Okay, come on.
Look, bro, I don't know. I don't
was
know.
still a kid. Are you gonna ask me if I ever had cereal before too? I wasn't still a kid. I just didn't. I may have watched that in a different state on tour, but I still watched it.
Before, okay, so then like imagine watching like a Disney movie and why we remember stuff like The Lion King, for example,
right.
or why we want to see Aladdin again, right?
Right.
And it's because the stories that they tell within, maybe like an hour long, like they're memorable, and we get lessons from it.
Yeah.
It doesn't register in my head why people don't look at music that same way.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So the simple fact that you're able to look at your own life, look at a friend's life, and be like, yo, I'm going to write a story about that because, I mean, there's something in there. We all, at the end of the day, we all love stories.
Yeah.
We just don't know it.
For sure. And I also think that's what music is about. It's about painting a picture and really creating a movement. Especially with me. I don't want to just make music. I want to start a conversation. I want to make a movement with my fans and really talk about something that's going to turn into something bigger. You know, and also too when I was in the studio, I was with Dirk in January and they were telling me their stories. And they're like over 30 and they've had other experiences that they were able to share about. And one thing I learned was if somebody's life was completely different than mine and they told me one story, I can find something I can relate to it in some way. I can be like, you know what? I haven't experienced that, but I can tell you something that I've experienced and we can kind of meet in the middle. But it's all about talking, and that's all about that gap year. That doesn't happen in a day. That happens in a couple weeks. You got to really know somebody, and if it takes a couple weeks to make a song, then hey, at least I learned something from it.
Yeah.
But I'm just happy I took my time. I needed that.
What were you like relating on? Because Dirk's your producer.
Yeah, he worked on the whole project.
Damn, crazy! Shout out to Dirk, man.
Shout out to Dirk, man.
So then, what were you? The combination of working with the right producer is always the most difficult thing. But then you mentioned that like once you work with someone who you can relate to, it becomes a little bit more easier, right?
Yeah.
So like, what was it about Dirk that you two can like find mutual ground on in terms of like the stories that you guys want to portray to the world?
It wasn't so much the stories; it was his persistence. He was very like, let's just do it, and that's how I am. I'm like, let's just go. It's 4 a.m. Let's just go in the studio right now. That type of energy with somebody, man, like you need that. Because I've been in sessions where I'm like ready to go for it, and maybe the engineer and producer, it's not their best day.
Mm-hmm.
You can't make great music out of that. So it wasn't so much his stories that we connected on; it was his energy that we connected on. He's always excited about making a record. He's always excited about, making dreams like where the record is gonna go, or making long-term goals for the next year. Next year, this is where we're gonna be at. Like, I love that with Dirk, and that's why we were able to make over 50 records.
Shit.
Yeah, we made a lot of records, which I think I'm probably just gonna give some to my fans in a couple years, because I talked about it so much that I'm telling them Perfect World is dropping. They're like, yeah, but what about that last record you talked about 2 months ago? So
What about the one you put on your IG story?
Yeah,
Like, how come that's
exactly.
not on the EP?
So I'm probably gonna give some away to them.
Yeah, I feel you, man. I feel you. How much of yourself do you have to sacrifice for the sake of pleasing your fans?
Not a lot. My fans get me, and I think that's because we grew up together. When I was 12 years old touring, they were 12 years old going to school. They were coming to our concerts, and like I said, even Mindless Behavior, we weren't just a group that made music. We were a movement. We had relationships with our fans. Like, we were friends. So now they're in college, and now I'm my solo music, and they went through heartbreak. I went through heartbreak, and now now they're 23. I'm 23. So they understood that they needed to give me a break, and I'm coming back with heat. But that's the benefit of social media too. I've been able to share snippets on Instagram stories.
Yeah, of course.
I've been able to kind of keep them up with what's going on, and then I just left out in the dark.
Yeah, and it seems like you're using social media in the way of just you simply like to communicate with your fans.
Yeah, that's all I created a whole like Princeton Perez daily just to talk to them. And yeah, I called them the Chulas. They gave me the nickname of Papi Chulo, and I was like, you know what? You guys gave me that nickname. I'm gonna stick with it, and I'm gonna give y'all Chulas. And they have their own little group chats, and they make friends with each other, and a lot of them are reconnecting, and they met each other when they were 13 at a concert, and now they're 23, and some have kids, and some are each other's godmothers. Like it's like a big old family. So
that kind of reminds me of a story I heard with if you ever heard of Miles Parrish, he was part of this group called Kalen and Miles. Okay. So he was talking about how when he was in the group, there was actually a group of girls who met together like at a concert of theirs, and they ended up becoming best friends.
Oh, that happens all the time with me.
Yeah?
Happens all the time with me. Like, and especially, touring is my favorite thing, so I'm always touring and going to the same places. I'll see them, like, together. And social media, like, I'm not stalking them, but,
But you're aware they exist.
I'm aware they exist, and I have my little Finsta, and I'll be going on their pages and looking,
So, what's the Finsta again?
I'm not. No, I'll be on my Finsta, and I go on their pages and just making sure they're cool, and I'll see them, like some of them have babies, and they made the friends they met at Mindless Behavior concerts their godmothers, and, like, a lot of things, and it's just dope, man. I mean, it's dope to see people go up together.
Yeah.
It's lit.
And, like, how does that make you feel knowing that I guess you can make these, you can have relationships outside of music just constantly forming, and, like, it seems like you're growing with your fans as they grow, too.
For sure. I mean, I remember me growing up, like the Disney Channel, like bringing back Disney Channel. Like, I remember watching like Camp Rock and High School Musical and having like those fan pages on MySpace. And I met friends through there, and I still talk to them to this day. So I understand like what a movement can do with people, And I see it now when the Jonas Brothers got back together, and I see all of the fans getting B2K and all that. I get it. It's just sometimes I forget that I was part of that in the new generation.
So what you're saying is there's a Mindless Behavior reunion in the works.
Not anytime soon. I don't want to give the fans hopes up. Not anytime soon.
Hilarious, man.
But we're still cool though. So
yeah, that's good, man. So the EP, what's the name of the EP again?
I'm gonna wait to say that when I announce it.
Hey man,
I have.
You ever fish?
Listen.
You know what I mean?
I have 2 names, and I'm away. But I promise you, when I get the name of the EP, I have about 2 or 3 that I'm picking between. I'll let you know first.
Okay.
I'll let you know first. I promise. I'll let you know.
That's all I need. I hope I get the invite to the EP listening party or whatever you have
planned.
The
studio's down the street. You can come through, listen to the EP.
Oh shit, let's go right now.
I just finished it 2 days ago.
Oh really?
So I feel like it's really done. Because I've been saying the EP's done for like a year, but it wasn't really done.
But you have a date now, right? You said June.
June 14th is when the single drops. Perfect World.
Okay.
That's the beginning. I feel like that's when my solo career starts. So maybe that's when the gap year ends.
Ooh, symbolic.
You know what I mean? Maybe that's when the gap year ends at June 13th at midnight. That's when it.
Or if you're on the West Coast, June 13th at 9 p.m.
Exactly. That's when that happens. That's when I come out of my dorm and I go, all right, let's graduate. Let's do this.
There we go, man. June 13th, 9
Ooh,
p.m.
gap
or
year.
June 14th, man. Make sure you cop that Princeton Perez Perfect World.
Yeah.
And the EP is hopefully going to come out maybe this summer.
Oh, for sure.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. And catch me on tour. I mean, I'm either gonna hop on someone's tour or I'm gonna do my own tour and I'm gonna be with my fans. I was telling a friend of mine I kind of want to do like a listening party type of tour thing where I go to a couple states, invite some fans over, and I get to play them some of those 50 records that didn't make the EP. You know.
Oh shit.
They can all meet up and we can just reminisce on the good old times, play them EP, perform some acoustic versions, and I want to do something like that.
Hey Keisha, you part of the marketing team too? Man,
I mean, that was really Keisha's
shit.
idea. That was really Keisha's idea. I just brought it up.
I'm over here thinking like, damn, that's a really good idea.
Yeah, do not drop this tour. I'm on that tour, so no other artist takes that.
Oh shit! Well, Princeton Perez, where can everybody find you on the gram and all that?
Everywhere, Princeton Perez. Everywhere. My website, Instagram, Twitter, Princeton Perez.
There we go, man. This is the lunch table, food for thought. I'm Nico Blitz, Princeton Perez, and we are out, everybody.
Yay! Woo!